It may look easy. You may even say that every game, even a bad one, manages it on some level. And you're not wrong. But you will know when a game achieves an extra layer of immersion. One where the story is the last thing you remember. One where the gameplay has errors and imperfections on purpose to serve an authentic and oppressive atmosphere. When you're making a game under stressful conditions, being pushed to the very brink to deliver a product worth the same $60 as a AAA title, is it not that restriction and pressure, the very feeling you experience making the game, is how players should feel playing it? This is the masterfully threatening world of Metro 2033. Post-apocalyptic Moscow is a snow-ridden hellscape, driven underground from the promise of a president that lied to his people, only to die and leave thousands of lost souls stranded in the Russian metro tunnels, waiting for a salvation that will never arrive. This is where your mission begins. The metro tunnels are fully realised for what they are, the remnants of humanity doing everything they can to survive. They are depressed and freezing, but keep a positive attitude with card games and friendly, light-hearted conversation. The game forces you through tight corridors and claustrophobic environments, but makes an effort to show they are still teeming with life. The plot is directly a reaction to the threat of something opposing humanity or daring to be more. The Dark Ones are an evolution of humanity deprived from the fallout of nuclear war, but because of their telepathic ability to communicate with us, humanity retaliates in fear and creates a scared and anxious humanity with the primary goal of survival, which results in the genocide of a race crying out in fear. The Dark Ones bring a supernatural element which brings the game into a sci-fi landscape that differentiates from its American counterpart in Fallout. Metro tunnels have long been a hot zone for the supernatural. A lonely tunnel with no sign of an end is the perfect place to incite your paranoia as you journey endlessly into the unknown. 1917 was a suicide mission, but this is a cycle of repetition. A new station brings a new element of humanity, expertly differentiated from the last. Each station feels different from the last and presenting the best and worst of humanity back to back. Living in isolation, with only whispers of the surface to solidify their theories of what could remain.
Back up to the surface? I've never seen Moscow, just the old pictures.
Moscow's gone. Soon we'll be gone too, and the monsters will inherit the Earth.
But there were other subways, in St. Petersburg, Minsk, Kiev.
People might have survived somewhere else, or at least for a while. But 70 years have passed now, and we've heard nothing from them. What a beautiful world we've destroyed.
I enjoyed standing and listening to these conversations as these people gather their thoughts and theorise on past and future events. It's these little conversations that are so well thought out that you start to believe the world you're travelling through is actually real. You see firsthand the dangers that they are right to be afraid of, and the creatures of the world are relentless and a never-ending threat. Many segments of the game are a shooting gallery which may come across as repetitive, but help to reinforce the feeling of being backed against a wall. And it's not without its consequences. Characters pop in and out of the story only to be snatched away or lost forever. The journey you're taking feels dangerous and relentless, with occasional breaks in the action being slow and tense. The benefits of setting your story in such a narrow environment is that the horror never really lets up. Sometimes it's the little details that make the biggest impact, like a cobweb burning or a physical map instead of the game pausing. You're given no time to gather your thoughts. Your currency is your ammo. Bullets are a valuable and limited resource, and your management of air filters and mask integrity push you ever closer to breaking, but it makes you feel the tension that Artyom does. I will never forget the time I had 1 minute left on my air, scaling a tower I thought would never end, and hearing Artyom breathe like it was his last, slow and terrified. I thought I'd ruined the whole mission and would run out of air, but at the last minute I found a container of filters. Resource management brings you so much further into the world and provides an excellent, if grueling, experience, and in many cases adds to this immersion. A broken gas mask blocking your vision is a sign of your mortality. Out of focus breathing is a sign of your dependency, and the ability to wipe your mask of dirt and rain is a reminder of the harsh elements you're traversing. The metro is designed to make you feel safe, but when you reach the surface, you'll wish you were back. Fallout makes the post-apocalypse feel like a fresh start for humanity, a chance to build up a grateful world that values what they lost. It's a hopeful world above the surface, one which sows the seeds of a new and interesting civilization. But Moscow is a very different story. Lost to the elements, it is a cold and dead world. The openness and vastness of the skybox is not refreshing or freeing. It leaves you exposed and open for attack. There is nowhere to hide and barely anything to see, just a flying demon and a pack of malicious Nosalis. You're going to wish you were back underground with limited breath. You'll be tearing it through this danger zone, desperately searching for where to go next, and braving the harsh conditions pressed against nearly every surface. The sounds of your downfall are screeching from all directions. It's truly a terrifying experience that makes you feel utterly defenseless and without a hope of escape. That is not to mention the library. You think you're safe inside a huge ancient structure designed for knowledge and teachings, but has been polluted by the nightmare of a librarian that stalks its corridors and is one glance away from tearing you to pieces. The AI is inconsistent and downright messy. But this is not alien isolation. This creature is not a perfectly designed machine that operates based on a set of commands like the xenomorph. There is a way to avoid it. But like a real animal, sometimes you can do everything right and still not avoid its judgment, and subconsciously, you can tell when you fucked up, but you can't do anything to save yourself. Personally, my favourite location from the game is the terrifyingly huge D6. Even when you're surrounded by the closest allies, the game throws a loop into the final section of the game and puts you in a massive location with an infinite darkness surrounding it. A thick and dense fog packs this location, and unlike transit, this one is purposeful. What the? You feel tiny as you walk across the thin walkways and operate decades-old machinery at the end of a tiresome journey that seems impossible to complete. The radiation is leaking, and never-before-seen creatures lead you further and further into the depths of the metro. You feel at your most vulnerable, and the safety of your friends has already diminished as they are picked off like flies. This section is dank, depressing, the old machinery whirring and grinding, giving you fragments of an old world polluted by the hell that was World War III. I just love the feeling this section of the game made me feel, and even then, it's difficult to put into words. It's so vast and cinematic in scope that it justifies the difficulty. At this point in the game, you've been saving up all this bullet currency to buy upgrades, only to realise you'd lost out on the final chance to purchase, and need to shoot every last penny out of your gun to stay alive. From the depths of the metro to soaring high above Moscow, I've spoken about the tower, but the actual landscape is not fully realised until you look at it for yourself. You barely have time, but the beauty of this frozen wonderland is only able to be appreciated when you're far above it, towering above the city, looking upon a blaze of mass genocide as he commands the deaths of thousands. A perfectly bleak end to an unforgiving story. The hope of freedom for these good-intentioned creatures, broken down into a fever dream, non-canon ending which brings a sign of hope, but one that was never going to be a reality. Building this nightmare was an incredible achievement for 4A Games. The conditions the game was made under were Neanderthal at best, and yet this passionate team of developers created an underrated classic that sold over 1.5 million copies, with 2 sequels that garnered huge success under thankfully better conditions. A happier and more optimistic ending than the game itself, and you have to commend every member of the team that created an actual working game, never mind the gorgeously sick world that is still a standout in its genre over a decade later.